Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is our first of this year's Burien candidate forum, and we'll have two more. The second one will be in 2 weeks on Tuesday, and the third one will be a week after that. Tonight we have two candidates. We're going to be a little more relaxed than we have been in previous times. One, because there's only two people, it's easier to do. People can talk a little bit back and forth. I don't want to get into too much of a discussion, but a little bit of what did you mean by that type of question. And probably an hour from now, we'll ask you to ask questions. And please have your questions. It would be nice if you, I guess we'll have the microphone taken to them or something. Or
yeah, we have a
or just build it out.
Okay. So in any case, we'll bring a microphone to you and ask the questions. My name and experience is Jack Main. I've been a newspaper editor most of my life, and fortunately all over the world. And so I decided that I couldn't quite stop doing what I'm doing, so I keep on doing it because I enjoy it. But nowadays it's a lot more fun in a lot of ways because I can do it in front of my computer at home. And if I didn't quite figure out what it is they said, I can play it back 3 or 4 times until I figure it out. I'm going to ask the candidate, the out person looking to come in, John Scherer, to give me a little bit about your background.
Hello, my name is John Scherer, and first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out. It's really great that we have the kind of turnout that we do. I appreciate everyone coming. I've lived in Burien for technically 5 years. I've actually lived in Boulevard Park for 13 years. It's been part of Burien for the last 5 years. I've been working for King County for the last 8 years. I manage the recorder's office there. I have more than 20 years experience in management in a variety of different businesses, both here in Washington and in New York, where I'm originally from. I decided to run for office because I was frustrated with the situations that we have in our residential neighborhoods. The crime continues to be an issue in our neighborhoods. The responsiveness from our police force is not what it should be. And we continue to see economic decline in our neighborhoods. Vacant houses that have stood vacant for years and nothing being done with them, and no real look to the future for that. So once again, thank you for coming out, and I look forward to being engaged.
Susie?
Thank you. So I'm going to kind of do a test run with this microphone, get comfortable with it. I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank the B-TownBlog and the crew that is here from the B-TownBlog putting this on to help us make an informed decision on the council makeup for the next 2 years. So I want to thank you for the honor of serving you as mayor, deputy mayor, and council member. I am running for Burien City Council, and I appreciate your vote to continue serving as your council member. I have the experience and the passion that we need to get our community moving forward. I believe Burien's biggest challenge today is balancing public safety, which my opponent just mentioned, in our neighborhoods and downtown, economic development, and our core services. Public safety includes police, a recent trespass ordinance that has been on the edge of being recalled several times. And I fought really hard for that ordinance so that we can ensure that our public spaces can be enjoyed by all, not by a vocal minority. Safety resource or a school resource officer, we just had that discussion last night, I think is a critical officer to have in our public schools to protect our children and help with avoiding any major incidences there. And then Burien is a wonderful community, and we know how to do grassroots. And with our limited resources, financial resources, we have to do our own work in our neighborhoods. So our Block Watch program is just amazing, and I would encourage all of us to support that and get involved if you're not right now. Economic development, we're seeing a turn nationwide and I have 10 seconds left. And so it's time for Burien to turn that around, and we just started the council emphasizing economic development. Our core services, we have density and development that we need to have thoughtful planning on. We take care of our roads, surface water. The next big facility that this community needs and is missing is our recreation center for all of the communities. I'm going to stop there.
John, you say that the needs of people in the neighborhoods aren't getting what they need. What do you mean, and what would you do about it?
Thank you. Yes, I do believe that the services in our residential neighborhoods, particularly in the neighborhoods that have recently been annexed as of 2010, are not being met. We're seeing, as I mentioned in my opening statement, we're seeing vacant houses that are being used as squats in some occasions, criminal activity taking place there. We see break-ins almost on a daily basis in our neighborhoods, mail being stolen almost on a daily basis, and very little responsiveness from the police department. When we have had the police out, when we call them out and ask what we can do about the situation, what the citizens in our neighborhoods are being told is they can move. And I don't find that acceptable. I don't think that's an acceptable response to that issue. There are things that we can do as a city government to put pressure on the banks that own these vacant properties to get them to move them. Currently in my own neighborhood, we have a developer who's working to, he's subdividing the property, he's building new houses there that's going to help to revitalize that neighborhood, but we have 3 other properties that are right next door that the banks will not move. And these are houses that are not livable. They have holes in them, they won't be sold. But the banks will sit on them because they're not a good enough investment for them to sell. We need to put pressure on those banks, and I think we need to do a lot more accountability on our sheriff's department and how our contract with them is set up.
The Sheriff's Department is, of course, under contract to the city of Burien to provide the police department. I've had several talks with the sheriff, and the answer when I ask a question about why more can't be done, the question is usually that's as much as Burien can afford, and we give them everything they can afford. Would you like to add to that?
Sure, thank you. And I would encourage, John, that that situation, I would encourage you to contact council members. I'd be more than happy to work with you on that situation. I have been contacted by other citizens with similar problems, and we've been able to work something out. Burien has a very conservative budget, and the police department, public safety is one of the priorities for this council the last 2 years. And the new city manager, Mr. Grawl, and the council has created more work with the police department. We just recently changed the shifts from a 5-day shift of 8 hours to a 4-day shift of 10 hours, and that covers the peak time. So there's more police officers with the same amount of money or slightly more money that was in the budget. I think that by working together, council, staff, and citizens, we can actually continue to work creatively and figure out how to solve these problems.
Let's stay with police for just a few more moments here. Recently, I believe the council, in fact it was last night, the council took up a matter of having a police resource officer within the Highland School, something that most cities have and have gone on for some time. And there was some difficulties on getting that passed, and I don't recall exactly how it ended up. My point is, I'd like to ask you, and then I'd like to ask you to respond about whether the police resource officer are really not a good thing because they end up causing more troubles than they solve, or that they are very good and they solve problems.
Thank you. So the topic was the school resource officer, and Burien has been sharing this officer with the Highline School District since 2005. So what's happened with our new city manager is that it seems like we've had some looser agreements in the past, and the new administration is tightening up on our documentation. And so this was just a housekeeping item to have an actual formal contract with the school district for this officer that we've been sharing the officer for the last 10 years. So it's not a new item. We've been doing this for the last 10 years. Some council members feel that and I can't speak how they feel, but what I understand they were saying was that they didn't feel that the school and the community was benefiting by public safety in the school, and I am the total opposite, and I think public safety, I used to be a high school teacher, and I experienced challenges in behavior in schools, and I think that having a school resource officer on campus helps tremendously, setting a tone for improving our education for our children.
One of the things that I'd like to kind of add to the question, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, as I understand there's one police officer in that position, and he moves from school to school depending on where he's needed. So if it's at Highline High School and something happens across town, he has to go there. Is that right?
I believe so, and that way he develops relationships with the students and the whole community. Mm-hmm.
So I am in favor of security in our schools. It would be silly not to be in favor of security in our schools. Also, if we are going to have security officers in our schools, it is a better idea that they be police officers as opposed to a private security firm, because we have seen on more than one occasion nationwide where having private security firms who can't actually take an action cause more problems than we solve in situations like that. I am very, very glad to hear that we're working on cleaning up our paperwork associated with that officer, because I would want to make sure that what that officer is expected to do and what action he is expected to take should be written out in that. And I would hope that we are getting reports on the performance of that officer as well.
Moving on then, let's go back to you and your area of where you come from and are living now in Boulevard Park. You said in one of your statements that the neighborhoods need a strong and representative voice on the council. Those are nice words, but how do you do that when the city is so spread out and it's all over it? Boulevard Park, you can probably do it for, but how can you do it for the other parts of the city?
Well, I think the most important thing is we need to have a conscientious approach to all of our neighborhoods, not just the neighborhood where I live, the neighborhoods where everyone lives. Because so much attention has been paid over the last 10 years in Burien to the downtown core, and a lot has been done. I want to make sure that I'm not coming off as if I don't like the downtown core. I think we've done fantastic things on 152nd Street. I think that needs to continue and spread throughout downtown, but we can't do it at the cost of the attention that we need to pay in the neighborhoods. We've had the economic downturn that has affected our neighborhoods. The third runway has gutted that section of Burien. We've lost housing over there. We've lost good affordable housing over along Des Moines Memorial that is now, it's turned into a nice park and some nice parking areas from the airport, but we've lost housing there. We've lost neighborhoods there. The neighborhoods over in North Highline that are in the flight path are nearly unlivable now with the noise from that. We have to take a conscientious approach. Every time we make a decision on the city council, we need to ask, what is this going to do to our neighborhoods? Is it going to do anything positive, and is it going to have a negative effect?
So annexing the northern part of Burien, welcoming our new residents was it had a lot of energy around it, and the community is now integrating. We have 2 folks that are on the Planning Commission, and we're working with the Burien Economic Development and the other advisory boards to integrate, so to make the community whole. The airport, this community fought for approximately 30 years because we knew that the third runway would do irreparable damage to our community. And so the previous councils, once it was inevitable that the third runway was coming in due to the dirty fill bill, and that was voted on in Olympia by our state representatives. The council realized that that area was not suitable for people to live. And so they rezoned the area, and it's rezoned industrial commercial. And it's currently undergoing a transformation. And the council currently assembled property there, is in the process of selling it. And that will be the first industrial commercial spot. And so that is actually helping the people who still live there to be able to sell their homes at a value that they can then buy a new home and still have that value in their lives. So it was unfortunate that this happened to our community, and we're making the best of it.
I might have some bad news for you. I have also get to cover Des Moines and SeaTac, and recently Des Moines had a problem in that a drug rehabilitation center wanted to locate in the Woodmont district, which is on the very south end of Des Moines. And that created, as you can well imagine, a great outcry and frustration, and about 5 hours of yelling and screaming at public meetings. But the city of Des Moines is trying to move it, and they can move it to an area that fits into the kind of thing that we have now under the runway. It's a central facility, and so once it gets there, you can't zone it out. That's the problem in Des Moines. They can't just say go away, but it could end up in Burien. What do you think?
Well, Drug Rehab Center actually is a very helpful center for people who need it. Burien has Schick Shadle on Ambom, and that has been a part of Burien for a long, long time and has helped a lot of people in Burien. Burien has a very vibrant wellness cluster, and so I think working with this organization and finding the best spot for it, it would be the way to go.
It's closer to your neighborhood. What do you think?
Well, I have to say I agree with that drug rehabilitation is going to be a cornerstone for how one of the things that is, I'm sure there's going to be a question about it in your pad, is how we deal with homelessness in the city of Burien, because I know that's been a hot button issue for everybody. Substance abuse is one of the key factors in homelessness. So if we are going to do anything about homelessness issues in the city of Burien, dealing with drug rehabilitation is going to have to be part of that solution. So I agree that we do need to find the right place and a conscientious place for that facility to go.
Well, since you brought it up, let's talk about homeless for a moment. It's been as you suggest, a hot issue we've had to go through for over a year, isn't it? Been up and back and around. But the issue keeps coming back, and with the I just discovered the other day that there is a state law that says that all cities must have a plan to handle homelessness on religious facilities. If a church decides they want to have the homeless live on their facility, the city has to have a plan. I'm not quite certain what that plan has to have in it. But do you know about that, and have you been working at that, or? I tried to call the city and I didn't get an answer today, but what do you, well, let's just say if it's true, that's a struggle, isn't it?
We already have human services, and we're working with churches at this time, so I don't see it as a struggle. I think it's appropriate to create frameworks. So Hospitality House is out of the Lake Burien Presbyterian Church, and wonderful services to help women find their way back into self-sustaining lifestyles. We also have Transform Burien that offers a clothing bank, and we have the food banks. But Transform Burien is a collective group of churches that are supporting the needs of homeless, and they are helping homeless transition from a homeless situation to a more sustainable situation where they can be self-sufficient.
Given the question I've already asked, I'd like to ask you to answer that, John, but add something to it in that homeless and criminal elements sometimes get mixed up. You're talking about all of the people living in houses and so on. They're homeless, maybe. How do you where do you come down on that? How do you decide who is homeless and really belongs to be called homeless and who is just not?
That's a very good question. And I want to start by saying that one of the things that I've seen as I've started the campaign, as I've been engaging with people in person and online, is that we do a really great job of vilifying homeless people. We look at, we have more homeless in Burien. Yes. Does that mean that all of the homeless people that we see in Burien are criminals? No. Does that mean that all of the criminals that are causing activity, that are breaking into your houses and stealing your mail, are they all homeless? No. These are separate issues. Homelessness is something that we have to take on as its own problem. Criminal activity is a situation that we have to take on as its separate problem. As I mentioned, substance abuse is one of the key indicators for homelessness. Economic distress is another one, and so is mental illness. So we need to work on these different factors, and we need to work to engage the homeless. We need to engage with them. We need to learn who they are and what they need, and not just treat them as one group. Certainly not shovel them off into a camp. I think it's great if we do have facilities where they can go, but we need to have a broad array of things that we need to be able to do. I think one of the things that is absolutely key, and I'm perfectly willing to admit this, I don't have all of the answers for combating homelessness. And I don't believe that right now anyone in Burien does. I would like to see us reach out nationally and internationally to communities who have done a good job with homelessness. Because homelessness is going to be an issue in every place where there's a community. There's always going to be some degree of homelessness. I think we should reach out to those areas where they have done a good job in dealing with those problems and see what we can adapt for ourselves here.
Oftentimes, the police get kind of into a bind when they talk with someone and ask that person to leave under the trespass ordinance, which you indicated, and both of you have indicated, and they get condemned no matter which way they go. What about, how should police behave around homelessness?
So I would like to respond to this. Thank you. So first I want to mention that I haven't seen as much vilifying of homelessness in this community as caring about the homelessness. So I think that this community has a huge heart. We're also a very poor community, and so we need to work together to help the situation. It is a multi-pronged approach, and there is an element of substance abuse, there's an element of mental illness. The police department actually is working with a social service type of officer that comes out, and if there's some folks are known in the community, and so helping these folks get to the services that they need is part of what our community does with our public safety. So I actually see our community as having a very big heart, and we need to have a multi-pronged approach of figuring out how we're going to increase our revenue so we can help people, and we also need to consider some stronger ordinance like banning fortified alcohol being sold in stores, and our neighboring communities have some of these strong ordinances that help set these boundaries. so that these people have more incentive to reach out and get help rather than go to their local store and pick up a large can of beer that, that keeps them where they are. So thank you.
So to go back to your question about how the police should respond in these situations, I think one of the things that our police officers are up against, not just here but nationwide, is the current perception of their activities and how they are responding to things. I think that one of the issues that we have long term, and I believe this is probably going to come up as a subject further on in this forum, is, or at least for me, we don't have as much accountability control over the sheriff's department as we would if we had our own municipal police force. I believe that for a city of our size, it's time to start working in the direction of having our own municipal police force. I am not saying that we should flip the switch right now and do it. It needs to be a long-term approach, but we need to work in that direction. Part of the reason being people who live here, who work here, who are police officers here and dedicated to this community will have an entirely different attitude towards the way that they are responding to things than the sheriff's office does currently.
One of the benefits, as I said a moment ago, is a view from some of the other cities. Probably the police department with the most community support that I've ever seen in my travels around this country is in Normandy Park. They love that police department out there. And the police department, I remember one evening I said, I heard something, and I sent an email to the police chief, I heard something, and 8 minutes later he had the answer and all the specifics for me. But in Des Moines, they have their own police department also. And they are slowly going broke trying to keep it alive. They're losing people. They can't replace them. There are 2, I think, or 3 officers short. They are now talking in their budget reconciliation for this year of maybe taking more money from it. My question then for you is, where do we get the money for more for a police department? Because then now we have to buy the equipment, and yes, we are in a sense paying for the equipment, but it's a lot more to go out and buy 3 patrol cars than it is to get the sheriff's department that had them 2 years ago. Give me some ideas.
Well, first of all, I believe that one of the things that we should do is be looking into is there federal funding, is there state funding that can help us with that sort of thing. Also, if you look at the feasibility study that was done by the city of Burien in 2011, when the report came out, one of the things that was mentioned there that, yes, it would be a significant increase in cost to go from the contract model with the King County Sheriff's Department to our own municipal police force. It was going to be about a 25% increase. I think it was estimated $9 million that we were at the time paying for the contract with King County Sheriff's, and it was going to cost approximately $12 million to go to our own municipal police force. But in that report, it also said that the newly annexed areas, specifically North Highline, the north area of Burien, should be able to cover the cost of going to our own municipal police force, and it seemed to be the conclusion in that report that that was the direction we should be interested in looking. So I think that we should be looking at how much does that cost, because I know there have been some discussions with the current city council of providing more money into that sheriff's contract.
So Burien is a old community, over 150 years old, but it's actually a relatively new city of less than 25 years. So we still are developing as a city. We just took over our Public Works Department when we annexed the area that we did, and we are struggling to manage the public works in-house. So we don't have a public works facility yet, so that's something that will be capital improvement or come out of the capital budget that we don't have money for. So the police department, municipalizing our own police department, is on the list of things to do as we mature. but I believe that this is not the time yet. We need to focus on economic development first and get our empty storefronts full and get our tax revenue base diversified so that we're not relying on property tax and we don't find ourselves in a pickle like Nomi Park that went to the voters to increase their property taxes just to pay for the police department.
I have to ask one of those questions that I said you might not like, and that's Eagle Landing Park and the staircase. And I've had a nearby resident on me for quite some time to take the stairs down, rebuild them, do this or do that. And I went down and looked down, and I'm not about ready to try to climb down that. And saw that it might be difficult and probably dangerous and also legally dangerous to rebuild them. But is that what the city thinks now? I couldn't figure out quite what the city engineering department was saying here a while back when they had a statement.
So sometimes being on the council is frustrating because we move in a direction that I don't agree with, and Eagle Landing Park is one of those. I didn't feel like building stairs on a critical slope was a good idea. The majority of the council felt otherwise and moved ahead, and now unfortunately we're paying the price. So we need to make lemonade out of lemons, and I feel that we should not rebuild those stairs. But what we should do is we should figure out where the slope is stable and develop a small park out of what we have and develop Seahurst Park for that type of, people use the stairs quite a bit for exercise, and there are opportunities to incorporate that feature into Seahurst Park. There's already a service road that goes up that many people use right now, and that missing link can be applied in Seahurst Park.
Any comment?
Yeah, I've been hearing just little dabbles about the stair issue, and I fully admit that I'm not that familiar with it. I don't frequent Eagle Landing Park, excuse me. I tend to go to Seahurst Park when it's time to go to parks. I love going there, I love the waterfront. I think that it's perfectly reasonable to admit when you got something wrong. So if, as you're saying, they shouldn't have put the stairs there, and now we're realizing that they really shouldn't have put the stairs there, there's nothing wrong with saying the stairs shouldn't be there. We should go with something else. So I fully support that. I would say, though, that if we are going to take that away and we're going to move that sort of a function to the trail system around Seahurst Park, because I love the trail system around Seahurst Park. It's a fantastic place to go hiking if you don't want to drive an hour out to go somewhere. We want to make sure that we're also offsetting the effect that that's going to have on those trails, because as it is, the trails around Seahurst Park, they get very muddy and they get very, very hard to actually walk on as it is. More traffic on those areas is going to cause more problems, so we want to make sure that we are ready to mitigate those factors.
Yes, last night the city council finished a year-long or a 2-year-long, I'm not quite sure, project to get its rules for its own meetings. I had a city council member from another city nearby say, why didn't they do this in a committee of the whole weekend meeting and not take up all the citizens' time? Well, okay, it's done. Was it worth the time, the anger, the angst, the unhappiness that happened during that off and on 2-year project?
Yes, I think good housekeeping is a foundation piece for good government, and the council guidelines are critical as a document for the council to work together on. This document hadn't been touched. I think it got touched once in 2013, and it hadn't been touched before that for 5 or 6 years. Prior to that, it had been touched once a year for minor changes. So this is another example of doing some house cleaning, and it did take quite a bit of time, and we did have some spirited debates and discussion, and I think that gave the council the opportunity to learn Robert's Rules of Order, parliamentary procedure. It turns out that the past councils had been doing that a little bit off also. So these last 2 years have really been polishing the council to move us forward in the direction for rebuilding economic development. The community also got to see their council members and really get to know them during this process. So I think it was good all the way around.
Have you followed this discussion of the city council?
Yes, so I have been following this, and unfortunately I differ in my opinion here. I think it was a colossal waste of time. It was a colossal waste of the city taxpayers' time to spend this much effort for the last months to work on what is an internal document of conduct, and to go through the trouble of actually writing an ordinance for it, which is really just a matter of 7 people who need to agree to be civil to each other. It really shouldn't have taken the amount of effort that it has, and it shouldn't take writing new law to actually put this into effect. I really think that we could have done a lot better. I think the city council could have done better doing actual substantive work for the citizens of the city of Burien, rather than the amount of time they spent bickering over how they need to treat each other during council meetings.
John, I noticed in some of the information that I've been reading about you that one of your big supporters is Dal Constantine. That's always a nice name to have in your ink, but is he going to be a representative on the city council, or are you? In other words, what I'm really asking is that how much of your time are you going to be able to put into the city of Burien? And I'm not just talking because you work, because we all work in some way or another, but you know, are you looking toward a future in politics, or I've also seen that you wanted to be a different candidate in some of the material that you had. Tell us a little bit about why you want to be a different candidate and what these outsiders are going to mean to you.
Okay, so I was going to ask you to clarify that, but now I understand what you're talking about. Okay, I appreciate that. So let me start by talking a little bit about Dal Constantine. And I'm very happy to hear that he's seen as my supporter. I haven't actually heard very much from him directly in that matter. The fact is, Dal Constantine is my employer. I work for the King County. I work for the Department of Records and Licensing Services, which is part of the Department of Executive Services, which is overseen by Dal Constantine, the executive. So he is my boss. He signs my paychecks. One of my proudest moments that I've had working at the county, and I have it right here, is my little King County pin. I received this from Dal Constantine for the efforts that I made during Marriage Equality Day. I really, and it was the proudest moment of my career there to be able to make that happen for the citizens of King County. At that point, my direct connection with Dal Constantine is pretty much at an end. I see him very rarely. I usually work with people who are managers under him. So no, Dal Constantine is not going to have a seat on the council. I'm going to have a seat on the council. But if I'm lucky, I will have a seat on the council. In regards to wanting to be a different candidate, I firmly believe, I have to believe, that there is a different way to do politics in our country. And it starts here. It starts at the local level. I believe that money should not be the thing that drives who gets elected. I don't believe it should be whoever raises the most money is the one who goes into the office. So I am running on as thin a budget as I possibly can. I am doing the work myself because I believe that it's possible. And if I find out that I'm wrong, well, then I find out that I'm wrong. But I have to run this campaign my way because I believe in that.
So you're not a candidate in a group or in a group of 3 people. I noticed that there's one common name amongst the 3 candidates running for the council, and that's Jeff Upthegrove. Does he work for you? Or? Yes, please.
So yes, I have had contact with several of the other candidates. We've certainly formed what I would call a loose friendship. I didn't know them before the campaign, and I've talked to them about what they're doing, and how their campaigns are going. I know that Jeff Updegrove has been particularly involved with them. I've met with him on a couple of occasions just to talk about different things. He's given me some advice, but no, he does not work directly for me, and I do not take direction from him. There have been nuggets of wisdom in there, but I've also done several things that Jeff is not very happy with. So
You're running all by yourself, aren't you?
I am. I actually have developed campaign working relationships with Bob Edgar and Darla Green, and so those are my picks for City Council. John, we do agree on one thing, different way to do government. I actually run my campaign where my opponent has always outspent me. And it's about connecting with the people. It's not about the money. So it is about money when we come to the Burien budget. It's important to make sure that we stay within our revenues and keep our expenditures in check, to have a balanced budget. So yes, this is an interesting campaign. I only am taking donations from individuals. I do not take donations from outside groups, unions. I have been targeted by unions before, and I have experienced some pretty dirty politics by SEIU, and I noticed that that group is endorsing several candidates who are opposing myself, Mr. Edgar, and Darla Green. So I think it behooves us to look at who our supporters are. Again, I accept donations from people in this community as individuals. No businesses, no unions. Thank you.
Do you have any comments? The council just last night edited some comments for the Burien Economic Development Project. You know, I had to go and look because everybody refers to it as BEDP, and unfortunately, it took a long time to find it. But in any case, that's the new project to get business into town. What is it going to do, and how is it going to do it? Because you've hired somebody now, you've got a council to work on it. Something should be happening, shouldn't it?
Correct. So everybody get their seatbelts on, because we're going to turn economic development around. So the BEDP, or the Burien Economic, is actually Burien Business Economic Development Partnership, is an advisory board to the City Council. And there's the Parks Board, the Planning Commission, and the Arts Commission. So I got started making my community better when I have my own business here in Burien, and I decided that if I wanted to make my community better, then I needed to step up to the plate and start getting involved. So I got involved and got appointed by the council to the Economic Development Partnership, and it is exciting that right now that advisory board is meeting with the council this coming Monday to share ideas, build our relationship. In the past, the advisory boards have been isolated from the council. So this is a new chapter, and it's very exciting, so that we're getting community feedback, starting with our advisory boards when we turn this corner to improve our economic development.
What would you add to that board, or the idea of finding business? It's more for finding business not just downtown, but all over the community.
True, and I want to point out that exactly that. Business is not just what's occurring downtown. It's also, there are businesses that are thriving out in the communities. There are people who have landscaping businesses, people who are running businesses out of their homes. That needs to be taken into account as well. I would say one of the things that is important is not just looking to bring business into Burien, but to grow businesses in Burien. We need to grow privately owned businesses by people who live here, citizens in Burien, being able to start their own businesses and get started here. We also need to take a very careful look at our existing municipal code and try to remove those roadblocks that we have to our existing businesses that make it so difficult for businesses to expand within Burien.
One of the problems that often comes up is the parking ordinance. Please explain to me the parking ordinance. I've tried, but
I'm not sure which page you have questions about, but on Monday, so I invite all of us to come to the council meeting on Monday. It's a study session, and recruitment and retention will be a topic, and the mobility study and parking will be included in that, will be part of that. So the parking is about identifying what the parking needs are today and what they will be in the future in relationship to the developments that are being planned. So now that Town Square actually has skyscrapers and cranes creating buildings where we have accurate counts, we can now project parking needs a little bit better and start working on our parking.
what is going to happen to downtown because of all those people that are going to suddenly be living there? Or we hope they're suddenly be living there, and hope they move in faster than they did in the other buildings.
Yes, so unfortunately with the economic downturn, it affected the filling up of that building, but it is full and we have a thriving corner of the town square. When all those people come into our community, they provide the dollars to drive our economic development. And so, like I mentioned before, get your seatbelts on because it's an exciting opportunity. The city has planned for urban growth in the downtown core to preserve the neighborhoods. Previous councils actually started neighborhood planning, and the first neighborhood is Shorewood that actually has a neighborhood plan. Some council members want to see those neighborhood plans now be created and developed in the different neighborhoods to really pull our community together. And so that is protecting our neighborhoods and allowing the density that is projected to come into King County, and I'm sure you know of the numbers, that we plan with smart growth. We have our transit center, we have our downtown with the density focused downtown.
I want to talk around the country about food deserts, and it's interesting to note that you can find grocery stores on First Avenue, but that's about all. Is there any thought that we should have a little bit better mix of businesses in all kinds around, not necessarily another bar or that kind of operation? So I'll start with you.
I'm going to respectfully disagree with you about that. So yes, as far as grocery stores go, pretty much they're isolated down to the First Avenue core when you're looking for Trader Joe's, Fred Meyer, Safeway, that sort of thing. But if you want to go and get quality food, there are plenty of places to go in the city of Burien that aren't those kind of businesses. B&E Meats over on Ambaum is a fantastic business, and the quality of their food is amazing. All the way up on the other end of Burien, there's a little green grocer called Duane's. They have fantastic produce. I rarely buy my produce or my meats at a regular grocery store. I go to my grocery store for my staples and that kind of thing, but we also have several ethnic markets. We have a Mexican market over by the Goodwill that's on 128th. There are fantastic little shops where you can go buy specialty foods. So no, it's not just the First Ave area. That's if you're going out and you're just going to get a big grocery store, that's fine. But if you have some time to look at some of these smaller businesses with some of these specialty foods, you will find not only a great business, but great value there as well.
I concur. There's Wayne's Market on 152nd. There's a little Oriental shop. There's small mom and pop shops that carry produce and other staples. So the big stores are on First Avenue. It allows for ease of access, but Burien is a community that's full of diversity, and we just need to get the word out to shop local.
This is one of those questions that's an imponderable, and it's in the eyes of the beholder, but what is the biggest problem facing Burien right now?
So, in my opening statement, I mentioned that Burien's biggest challenge today is balancing public safety, economic development, and our core services. I feel like we're lacking in public safety. People contact me and don't feel safe. I work hard to connect with my neighbors and make my community safer, or my neighborhood. Our economic development, we have empty storefronts that we've got to fill and diversify our revenue source. Our core services, we need a rec center. Our young people, our seniors, they need services. Right now, they're going to Des Moines, SeaTac, Kent, Tukwila, and they're getting services met outside of our community, and that is not right.
I agree with that. I agree with that all of those are issues that are incredibly important in the city of Burien, many of which I'm actually running on: safety, economic development in our neighborhoods. I have a real concern with how things are going to go in our neighborhoods in the next 5 years if we don't make sure that our property values start coming up in our neighborhoods. But I think that probably, if you ask for what we think is the biggest problem in the city of Burien, and honestly, I think one of our biggest problems is apathy. I see so many people who are willing to simply accept what is happening around them and not question it. We get poor performance from police officers, and people accept it. We have people breaking into our homes, and it seems like a humdrum everyday occurrence. People are stealing our mail every day, and people are accepting it because no one will do anything about it. People that I meet as I've been out campaigning don't know how to make a complaint on code violations. We don't have enough communication out to our citizens to know that they can do that, or appropriately how to do that. When they call police officers about something that they see in a vacant house, and the police officer says, we can't do anything about it because the owner of the home hasn't made a complaint, they don't tell the citizen that they can make a complaint about a code violation. You know, we need to get more communication out there. We need to get people interested and to believe that this is incredibly important. It bothers me a great deal that we can't get 30% voter turnout in not only here, but across the county and across the state. We need to do a better job of engaging our citizens and making sure that people realize this is important and they can do something about it.
I am going to go back and ask one police type question that I had from earlier on. About 2 months ago, a citizen came into the council meeting and said that his child couldn't go to Dottie Harbor Park because there was police. I think the story was they asked him to leave because there was somebody there that was bad or something or another. I can't remember the detail. But the parks, I still hear complaints that parks are not safe.
So yes, public safety is one of the #1 priorities for this community. It takes all of us. And so I would encourage us to use our parks and use our facilities, connect with our elected officials, connect with staff. So one of the priorities that the council developed for the beginning of this year is community engagement. So it's about educating people on how to work together to make this a safer, better community.
How do you do that?
So what I do is I recommend when people share stories with me about something that they've experienced to please call the police, and even if the activity is done by the time the police get there, the police need to know that this is happening so that we create records and that we have the statistics. And so what I do is I do it myself. When I see something going on in my community, like Monday night after the council meeting, I was ready to call 911. This is, what I do. Call 911. This is a non-emergency, I tell the operator. And 911 is easy for me to remember. So I just call and say, this is a non-emergency. They shift me over and get me off the 911 number. and they put me on a non-emergency number, and then I've done this several times, so I make sure I can give them a description of what's happening. They record it, and they ask if I would like a call back to give me a report on what's happened, and I've gotten some wonderful responses with the police department working with them, and that's what I encourage us to do to make our community safer. So we need to get that connection with the police and get the data and getting funding for public safety. So that's what I
Any comment? Oh, I'm glad that you had great experience with a police officer in that situation. In my own situation, when I called the police about the attempted break-in in my house, the sheriff's officer took down all of my information about the incident on a yellow Post-it note, and I never heard from them again. I don't know if a report was ever filed. I certainly never had any follow-up on that. To go back to the subject of the parks, people who are engaged in criminal activities do not want attention paid to them. Okay? This is a well-known fact. I've known this when I worked in retail. The best way to stop a shoplifter is to give them the best customer service possible, because they do not want you to come around and talk to them. Okay? The best way to drive crime out of our parks is to drive our citizens into the parks. Give the citizens reasons to be there. Give the citizens something to do while they're there. I will point out the fantastic success that is currently happening at the park up in Seattle. I've forgotten the name of the park. Gosh.
Westlake.
No, it's not. It's not Westlake. Off of Pioneer Square.
Occidental.
Occidental Park. Thank you, God. That was one of those brain freezes. Occidental Park is seeing a huge, huge success because the city went in and put in tables and chairs for people to go have lunch. They put in games for people to play. They have musicians there every day, and people are using the park. People are going to local businesses down there, buying their lunch, taking it to that park, and they're having a grand time. And you know what? There are still a few homeless people there, and they're not a problem. But the people who are doing the drugs, who are engaging in the crime, they are not sticking around. They are moving somewhere else. So if we want to get that sort of element out of our parks, the best way to do it is get our citizens into the parks.
Does anybody have a question? Steve?
Yes, Mr. Scherer, you lived in your neighborhood for 13 years. Okay,
Use the mic. Get really close.
Okay, Mr. Scherer, you lived in your neighborhood for 13 years, the Boulevard Park neighborhood. What have you done in your neighborhood at the grassroots level with your neighbors to bring your issues to the council or to work with those neighbors to work them out? Have you been captain of a block watch? Have you joined a block watch? There are several people from your neighborhood who regularly come to the council and speak about some of these. So I'd like to know what your activities have been, what your proactive activities have been for this situation.
Thank you, and I will fully admit I have not done that much in my community. I do know my neighbors. I walk my dogs throughout my neighborhood. I meet people. We have a fairly close-knit community, but most of the people in our neighborhoods did not know about Block Watch. They did not know how to actually go about forming a Block Watch. It's only been recently that I found out how to do it, and to be honest, it's as things have continued to decline, my focus has been more of what is actually happening on the council. What is the council doing for us? And in my mind, I should run for city council. I think I could do a good job there. So no, I haven't done a whole lot at the grassroots level. I haven't done a whole lot of organizing in my own neighborhood. I'm starting here.
So for myself, I had my house an attempted break-in, and so when the police officer came, I asked for his business card and a case number so that I could follow along to see if they were able to get any information. They were able to take some fingerprints. As a council member, I never tell police officers who I am, and I want to experience what a citizen would experience from our police department. So I've had some good experience with our police department, and in my neighborhood, we're an eclectic group of people, And we have a lot of people walking. It's a lower income neighborhood where most people are taking the bus or walking. There was a drive-up drug operation across the street from where I lived, and several of the neighbors, we would share notes, and it took us 2 years to shut that down, but we did it. We went out and we got license plate numbers, and we were persistent, and we shared our notes, and so I love my neighborhood, and it's about grassroots, and that's what's wonderful about Burien.
Any other questions?
I have a question for.
Wait. Can't hear you.
So, you've been talking about how you feel that the police haven't been doing much and stuff like that, and you're really wanting to emphasize law enforcement. However, I've heard that there was a stray dog that you found and you took it to CARES, and you had made a comment that the people that have the dog, you know, like it could be a different culture, so it's normal that it free roams all the time and stuff. And in Washington, there's a law against off-leash dogs unless you're in a dog park or it's on your property. So why is there a difference? Why is that not a crime, considered a crime for you? Or
Okay, I'm not saying that in that particular instance that it wasn't a crime, or that they weren't in violation of leash laws. Okay, so yes, clearly they were in violation of leash laws because I had their dog, and I think I was more than a mile from where they lived. I put the dog up for the night. It followed my dogs home when we were on our walk. It was 10 o'clock at night. There was no way to get it to CARES for overnight kenneling. So we kept it. We kenneled it overnight. We took care of the dog, fed it, gave it water. It was in very, very good hands because we are very good pet owners, my wife and I. We took it to CARES, and we found out that the dog had a history with CARES, that it had been found in a number of other situations and dropped off with CARES. So they knew the dog's name. It had a tag, it had its license, so the people who owned it had licensed it, so they were caring about it. Where this conversation came up was there is a Facebook group called Take Back Burien that does a lot of political discussions about different elements in Burien. I posted to that group to let them know that I had found this dog, because at that time I had not talked to CARES yet. So I let them know if anybody was looking for a little red dog, it was in good hands, so that anybody who was missing that dog would know that it was safe and that it would be returned to them relatively soon. When I made that comment, a number of people got on to talk about how bad the owners were for not taking care of their dog and allowing it to wander off. I knew from talking to the people at CARES that the people who owned the dog, English was not their first language. So I made that comment about cultural differences and how they feel about their dog. Because what happens is the dog follows their kids to school and often plays with the kids at school and then goes home. And sometimes it wanders off. What I didn't want is people vilifying a family where they don't know what their circumstances are and just saying that these are bad pet owners because they let their dogs wander around. I don't know how they felt about their dog. I don't know what their daily lives are. So I simply wanted to state that don't jump to conclusions and vilify someone when you don't know exactly what their specific circumstances are.
The animal issues are a concern. People love their pets, and I think that people need to abide by the laws in our community, and if the dog repeatedly gets out, then there are escalating fines, and I think that if we choose to live in communities where there are rules, then we need to follow the rules.
Any other questions? Back here in the back. I'll move to this side next.
Lucy, for some time you've been on the library board. As I assume a representative of the Burien area in this community, and yet I understand that when the opportunity to defend the Boulevard Park and White Center libraries came up, you recused yourself. Can you explain this further?
Yes, I'll go ahead and clarify that. I served simultaneously as a Burien City Council member and a King County Library Board member. And the King County Library Board, the library system serves all of the libraries countywide. And I was not representing Burien on the library board. They have 5 board members, and we represent the whole county. So it's unfortunate that some people had that expectation, and so what I did was to clarify that or draw a line. I would recuse myself when I was on the library board regarding Burien issues, and so I represented the library as a whole. I think that reading is a wonderful gift that this country supports wholeheartedly, and it's near and dear to my heart. So I enjoyed my time on the library board, and that is now done. And I recused myself from any Burien decisions on the library board.
There is a question that I came up with. There was a problem earlier this year about locking the door of the library at City Hall. Has that been settled so people can get in without having to ring a bell or bang and holler, as I was told somebody had to do?
Yes, so that was something that administration, it sounds like they were aware of. The council was not aware of it, and it was carried over from the past administration, and so that is corrected, and so there is access to the council meetings while the council meeting is being conducted.
Yeah. Hey,
Can I ask a question?
you may.
Okay, so to both candidates, and I believe the question was directed, so you asked the question that I'm going to ask, but I don't think that there was a specific response from you. Do you have aspirations for another political office outside of Burien?
It's a good question, and thank you for reminding me on it, because I completely forgot to answer that area of your question, because I think I was running long on that particular answer. I would say that for the last few years, having worked in government, the idea of being in politics has appealed to me. So whether or not I would move on, I don't have an answer for you right now. I like the idea of being in politics. The experience of running this campaign has certainly opened my eyes to nuances that I didn't know were there. Right now, my entire focus is on being on the City Council of Burien. I have no aspirations to serve 4 years and then go on and do something else and then go on and be governor. I'm not looking at this as a career path. I have a job with King County that I also need to focus on at the same time that I'm focusing on the City of Burien. I talked to a number of people in the county who do have full-time jobs in the county and serve on city councils to make sure that not only was it doable, but that there wouldn't be any conflict of interest in me doing that. So right now, 100% of my political focus is on the City of Burien, and it will stay on the City of Burien as long as I'm a city council member here, if I am so lucky to get your votes.
Any question?
So, this is for both. Okay. Now, I want to know which, oh, I got a loud voice. Hello? Okay. So, this is for both of the candidates. I would like to know what political parties have endorsed you or you are expecting to be endorsed by, and what unions you are endorsed by or are expecting to be endorsed by for both candidates.
Thank you. So I'll start and I'll answer Patty's question. So I do not have political aspirations to go anywhere. I love my community, and I believe that I am giving back to my community. So this is a civic duty that I feel fortunate to be able to do for this community. I don't have any endorsements, and I am accepting contributions from individuals who are from Burien.
So I've been endorsed by the King County Democrats and the 33rd and 34th District Democrats. I've been endorsed by the Teamsters because I'm a former member of the Teamsters, so the relationship was already there before I went into the political process. I've been endorsed by SEIU 775, which is healthcare workers, mainly because I am supportive of their cause to and the 1199 SEIU over at Highline Medical Center, because I am in support of them trying to get a workable contract for their workers. The reason why I'm willing to take endorsements from unions is I believe that unions are important. We have a lot of union members who live here in Burien, so it's a huge number of constituents. I think it's important to make sure that we maintain good, solid jobs for our citizens, because when citizens have more money in their pockets, they will spend that money here on our local businesses. So I'm happy to take the endorsements from people who believe in me. Also, the King County Labor Board has endorsed me as well. So.
I have a little side interest in it, in another country, Australia, but it brings up a question I'd like to ask that has an effect here. We went through the $15 an hour pay increase out of the CTAC, and now is extended to the airport, and it's percolating around not only here but in the country. But I've always been wanting to ask this question. You pay more, don't you have to charge more? And doesn't that raise everything up so there are more poor people? I'd like to get both of your answers on that one. It really has nothing to do with Burien, but it's of interest, I think, to some people here.
Are you okay with me taking it first? Or okay. So no, I don't believe that it has that correlation. Let me come back to that first. The question over the $15 minimum wage, that ship has sailed. There's critical mass within the state of Washington, especially over here on the western side. That's going to happen. It may be delayed, but it's coming. There's going to be more and more communities doing it. It's not that much of an increase over the current state minimum wage. It's approximately $5. Having worked in retail for so many years, the way that you look at your payroll is not about how much the wage is. It's about what the percentage of the wage is to your sales. So if you want to hire more people, if you want to pay them more, you can do that. You just got to bring in more sales. It doesn't necessarily mean charging more. It means selling more units. When it comes to large businesses like your Fred Meyers, your big retail areas, it's all about managing what that percentage is going to be. I think it's going to be probably difficult for medium-sized businesses. So your small businesses that are going to have like 1 or 2 people, yes, it will be impactful, but it's going to be difficult for those businesses that have 20, 25 people. And I want to make sure that when it comes here, that we handle this in as responsible a way as possible to make sure that those businesses have a way forward, like the way the city of Seattle is doing it, making a phased-in approach, so that those businesses can manage that transition and continue to thrive as their employees continue to thrive.
Do you think the state is going to move up the wage statewide, or are you talking about like Seattle is doing? Like Burien can have a referendum, raise the pay rate?
I think eventually it will have to be at the state. I personally believe that's where the argument has to happen. I believe that it needs to be made by the state legislature. But as communities continue to get this pushed forward, I think you will find that it's going to be a snowball that eventually the state will have to act on.
Thank you. So this is where we disagree. $15 an hour. You mentioned that it's a $5 increase, and that isn't very much. So when I do the math, if I work or I have an employee or I work a 40-hour work week, that's an $800 delta, and that's a lot. And I either sell more or I charge more. As a small business owner, if I'm providing a healthcare service and I'm a sole proprietor, the only thing I can do if I'm already at my max of the hours in my day, I have to charge more. So it will negatively impact small and medium businesses tremendously. And those are the businesses that make up our community. So our community will be negatively impacted quite a bit. I do not think, and I would be a strong no vote for this community on any wage increase. It creates divisiveness between communities, and businesses look at which communities to move to, and then we create this crazy, unstable economic environment. It needs to come from the state, and there is no way that this community should be raising its minimum wage.
Well, I would like to follow up. So there is a piece that we agree on in there, is that it should come from the state. But I do want to point out, because I did hear this statistic mentioned yesterday, the $15 minimum wage doesn't even come close to hitting the median wage in Washington State. I believe it was mentioned that it's $22 an hour is the median wage in Washington State. So a minimum wage of $15 doesn't even bring you that close to the median wage. So we still have, room that we need to get to.
Other questions? Back here. Corner.
Yeah, recently my mom, I brought this up before the city council. She got a rent increase of almost 30% at Discovery Landing where she lived. Luckily for her, she was able to find a more inexpensive place to live. Provided that if the state repeals the rent control law, what do you guys propose to do about it in the city of Burien? We have people moving out, kids that are moving out, families are being torn apart, literally, while they move to Puyallup and that. I'd just like to know if you guys are in support of rent control.
Thank you. I think that Burien is one of the communities in King County that has the highest amount of affordable housing at this time. So I think that our community does not need rent control, and that I think that as we look at how communities like Seattle are skyrocketing in rent control because the voters in Seattle actually vote for higher taxes, it's kind of a vicious cycle of which comes first, the chicken or the egg. Are they taxing themselves out of their own properties? So I would hope that Burien diversifies its economy and taxes ourselves in a very prudent way so that we actually maintain our housing stock.
Okay, so from my point of view, one of the things that I've had to battle with is having been born in New York. Rent control means an entirely different thing in Manhattan than it does here. So making sure that I understand fully what's going on with rent control is incredibly important. I think to answer your question, the key thing is to make sure that if rents are going to go up, they have to go up in a reasonable and responsible manner. An immediate 30% increase in someone's rent, that is just unfair. And we know that it's unfair. You can tell. I'm so glad that she was able to get into another place, but that's terrible. And to actually live in a rental situation where you have that hanging over your head of what is my landlord going to do next month if I'm on a month-to-month lease, or what is it going to do the next time the lease is up? Am I going to have to look for a new home? That's horrible. We have to make sure that these sort of things are handled in a very responsible manner. I think that, yes, we do have a lot of affordable housing in the city of Burien, but we lost a lot of affordable housing with the third runway. We have so many houses that are still standing vacant, and we have issues of people needing to find affordable housing. And yet, we have just on my block 3 houses that have been standing vacant for 5 years. That could be used as affordable housing. Why the banks can't rent that out? I don't know. They certainly could if they wanted to put that effort in. So yeah, I would be in favor of a responsible way of handling how rent can and cannot increase and to what degrees. I think that the key thing is that we have to be very careful about balancing how fast can rents go up and how much affordable housing can we have with increasing the property values in our neighborhoods, because that is going to be a key thing as taxes continue to rise.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Recently, Burien entered into the PAA a potential annexation area. Okay, here. Sorry. Can you hear me now? Recently, Burien entered into the PAA, which is a potential annexation area, managed to annex Area X, which you're obviously familiar with, John, and failed to annex Area Y, which is part of White Center and northern part of Boulevard Park. Anyway. My question is, where did you stand on all of this? And if elected or re-elected, Lucy, and the opportunity arose, would you vote to have Burien re-enter the PAA and try another attempt at annexing White Center?
I might add to that, the city of Seattle has now put a dibs on the area, but I have a number of contacts in the city council, and hell will freeze over before they'll take that part of White Center.
So I was a no vote on the original annexation. Burien did step up to the plate, and we assimilated our larger size quite nicely. And Area Y, I was a no vote on that. I think that we are a size of a city at our age, at 50,000, that we can comfortably manage. There were 10 areas sprinkled all over King County that were unincorporated, and unfortunately, as areas got incorporated, they were cherry picked, and so these last remaining 10 had some of the lowest economic abilities to sustain themselves. So Burien did our part in helping King County with a problem that they still need to resolve, and hopefully Seattle will step up to the plate, and so I am a no vote on further growth in that area.
For my part, one of the things you should probably know about me is I never say no. I never say no as a definitive thing. Okay? There's always going to be the possibility of a good idea that comes out of something that looks like a bad idea. So I would say probably not right now. Maybe give it a maybe. I would really have to look at a lot of the particulars about it. My concern would be when the city of Burien jumped from 30-some-odd thousand people to 50-some-odd thousand people by incorporating the area where I live. The people who lived there didn't feel a whole lot of benefit from suddenly becoming a member of the city of Burien. The way we found out about it was we got a letter in our mailbox that said, "Welcome to Burien, and fees and taxes are going to be going up for you." So I don't think it was handled particularly well. If there's enough credible reason to annex those areas, to annex that area, I would say we need a very, very strong plan for how we are going to do that and how we are going to conscientiously bring those people into our city. If we can't come up with a plan like that we know will work and that we know will not have a negative impact on our city, then I think right now we should not move forward with that.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Downtown Burien has bookstores, art galleries, and even live theater. Something you haven't addressed at all is what role do you see the arts playing in the economic development of Burien?
You cannot have a community without arts, period. And I see it's absolutely that the arts need to be funded. They need to be nurtured. We need to see the arts grow just as much as we need to see our businesses grow. So making sure that we have, I know we have an arts council that we have in the city of Burien. We need to make sure that we keep up with that. We need to make sure that we are engaging with people on a grassroots level who want to increase arts in the city of Burien. We should continue to absolutely focus on that because, like I said, that is the cornerstone of community. My wife is an artist. She's a photographer. I associate with a number of artists around the Seattle and King County area and in other states. So, yes, it is absolutely critical for me. It's not something I would ever leave behind.
Thank you. So as the council was, as the ship was turning its course and we changed the town square developer from Urban Partners to Legacy, I had the opportunity to help out with 2 community meetings for the performing arts and to stimulate and get the arts together, all different spectrums of art, to brainstorm how we can move forward in Burien as art and economic development together. So there are some wonderful pieces. They're still trying to figure out how to fit together, and I think that it's exciting. We have the art in the alley, we have B-Town Beat on Thursday nights, we have the art galleries, so we have a lot that needs to come together. I believe that all of us are artists, so I encourage us all to step forward and participate more in our arts community.
Is there a vacancy on the Arts Commission right now?
Yes. So there is, yes. Yep. So please, if you're interested in joining the Arts Commission and helping make a bridge between residents and the council, will be fabulous. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Microphone until I felt it out.
He's coming.
Okay.
He's coming.
For both of you, if it were in your power tonight to repeal the no trespass ordinance, how would you vote?
Start with you.
Okay.
And I may have a follow-up question if I may.
Okay. So I support the no trespass ordinance. It's a creative, financially conservative way to help all residents enjoy public facilities. And so I'm going to leave it at that.
So this is going to be a 2-part answer. I would absolutely vote to repeal that. I think it's an embarrassment. I know that it's been amended a couple of times to try to soften it, to try to make it more appropriate, but the way it came out, the way it started, was an absolute embarrassment on our community. It needs to be repealed, and it needs to be started over. It's clear from the amount of discussion that has been had that something needs to be done, that we need to have something to control what's going on. But the way it was handled was absolutely inappropriate. We need to cut it out and start fresh.
May I follow up?
Yes.
With that response, I'm curious how you reconcile your interest in public safety while the trespass ordinance is repealed.
So public safety, my key with public safety is dealing with criminal activity. Okay, so if criminal activity is taking place, then the people who are committing criminal activity should be arrested. We don't need a new ordinance to take care of things that are already illegal. Okay, so if there's somebody doing something illegal, whether it's on city property or somewhere else, they should be handled appropriately for whatever crime they are committing. I think we need to make sure. That if we are going to have some sort of an ordinance that is going to work in that way, that it's not something that inappropriately affects people who are more vulnerable and should not be caught in that broad of a manner. So we need to be very conscientious about how we do that sort of thing, and we need to be very careful, because it has brought us to the sort of attention that we don't need for that sort of thing.
So I'm going to respond if I can. So these infractions are misdemeanors, and our court system is overloaded. And every time we have someone with criminal charge, it costs the city of Burien money. So the trespass ordinance was a creative way to save money and to preserve these spaces so that everybody can enjoy them. So it was a conservative approach that actually is working, and I'm getting feedback from the community that people now feel much safer, and the court system is still jammed up, but not as jammed up as it would be if we went ahead and prosecuted folks.
Anything else? Steve?
Yes, so let me make it real quick. I got an answer that you had a number of endorsements. I got an answer from you that you got a number of endorsements, okay? But you were running a very, very small conservative campaign. Are you taking donations from these endorsements? The ones that you mentioned? And wait a minute, one more question I want to add to that. All of the city of Burien is seriously impacted with stormwater problems. Okay, we're not unique. The whole of King County is impacted with the new regulations coming in. This may be urban myth or not, but I've heard that one of your campaign things is that you want more sidewalks in your area in particular. If that's urban myth, please clarify that, okay?
Okay, so let me start with the campaign contributions. Yes, I have received some campaign contributions. I've received 3. I received 1 from the Teamsters. I received 1 from the 34th District Democrats, and I have received 1 from a private donor in the city of Burien. Regarding the stormwater issues and whether or not I am trying to get sidewalks in my community, that is partially a myth. The reason why is on my campaign site, on my Facebook page, I did a video just to show people what it's like to live in some of the neighborhoods in the city of Burien, particularly my neighborhood. And the reason why I did it is at the time when I did the video, and if you go to my Facebook page, you can see this. As I walk down my street where I live, walking my dog, when an airplane is coming in for the 3rd runway, you cannot hear if there is a car coming up behind you. And unfortunately, right after I turned off that video, I turned around and there was a car right behind me, and I had to pull my dog away very quickly. In that video, I mentioned that it would be nice if there was a sidewalk to keep me away from the cars. I'm not necessarily advocating that there should be sidewalks on every street, and certainly just looking down my street, the engineering that it would take to put sidewalks in there would be absolutely, it would be impossible economically to do it. So no, I am not trying to get sidewalks in every area, but we do need to be sure that we are providing safety in our community so that we don't have that sort of thing. I don't know what the answer to that question is. I was just making that video out of frustration and making comments that, you know, I would really like to not be hit by a car just because the 3rd runway is loud.
Any other questions?
Let's make this the last one.
Okay. Well, and one thing that may solve some of that would be the rain garden idea that I think some cities are adopting, and even permeable sidewalks, so that's something. But the other part is kind of connecting all the dots here. There are food deserts, but I'm seeing the connection between early education with nutrition and drug use. So apparently if you get kids and educate them, then they bring that back to their parents, and that model is working nationally, I think. So that's something that I think we could all work on, the whole corridor probably, you know, the whole I-5 corridor. But and also, how do you feel about cameras in the parks or cameras on police? I mean, I know these are, I'm bouncing around a little bit, but it's all connected. And I think what also is working is neighborhood policing pages, like Facebook pages, things like that. I'll leave it there. It's a lot.
So there were 3 things that I picked up. So help me if I missed some. Early education and helping children get a good start in life is critical. And so again, it starts in our neighborhoods, and I've had the pleasure to actually help a family and tutor kids and get to experience the educational system. And so the City of Burien partners with the Highline School District to use our money wisely with educational programs and physical fitness and some nutrition programs. And it's a wonderful partnership that is a start. There's a lot more to work on, and I would encourage us all to help our school district, because that is the foundation of our community, and those will be the leaders of the future that will be taking care of us. The bond failed, and that was a very sad day, so I would encourage us that to look again at how we can help the school system, because it does need help. Cameras on police, I think that they help clarify any questionable activities, and I think it helps everybody involved with situations that occur. The Burien police actually, even though we're contracting them through King County, they actually are wonderful members of our community, and they actually have a Twitter feed, and you can follow them right here, and they're fantastic. So I'd encourage you to check that out.
So yes, rain gardens, fantastic. We could do rain gardens. I would start one tomorrow. I absolutely love that idea. I think it's doing great things everywhere. So thank you for bringing that up. A wonderful project. As far as the schools go, absolutely correct. Schools are where we need to focus. There is clearly a correlation between education, especially early education, and criminal activity. We know that the more we educate people, the less likely we are to have those sort of problems down the road. So, and I do know that the Highline School District is having tons of problems. We need to focus there. We need to make sure that they get their funding, not just their funding, but the quality teachers. We also need to continue to take the fight to the state about the standardized testing, because the way that is causing stress on our kids is just deplorable. So I really think that we need to continue to lobby the state for that. Cameras on police officers, 100% agree with that. I think that they do help, and I think that it helps put people at ease when they know that there is a camera on the police officer. Cameras in the parks, I don't see a problem with that either. I know that a lot of people are worried about their personal freedoms, and they don't want the government seeing what they're doing. But you know, countries in Europe that have much bigger problems than we do have CCTV at every corner, and nobody's got a problem with it. And it hasn't been invasive, and it hasn't caused issues. We need to make sure that those cameras are used appropriately. And I believe probably if we were going to look into putting cameras in our parks, I would say we should partner with the city of Seattle to see what they've experienced with the cameras in their parks, and see what we can take from that to keep the positives as much as possible.
Last question.
I know that one of the questions with the 34th Dams ticket endorsement was, will you support the $12 an hour in the community? Is that question has to be on how to do it?
Can you say that again?
One of the questions for the endorsement for the 34th Dams was whether or not you would support $12 an hour in the community.
With 13?
No, 12. That's not 12 for the question. So that was not answered.
No, if it was there, it was about whether or not it was, I thought it was about $15 an hour, and I said that I would support that.
Would you support 12?
If I would support 15, I would support 12, yeah.
Okay. I think it's time to wind up now, and so that's a few words to aid the crowd.
So I want to thank all of you for coming tonight, and from day one, I've always felt that community engagement is important, or a priority of mine, and so I've always felt that it's important to help all of us in our community figure out how to be better citizens and how to engage. So I'm always available, so please call me if you have any questions. My number, 206-242-8378, is my home phone number. This is a volunteer position. I work, do my city stuff out of my home, and I am available through that number. You can always reach me on my email address. As your elected official, it would be LucyK, L-U-C-Y-K, @burienwa.gov. Any campaign questions need to be separate from my city email, and my personal email would be LucyK, L-U-C-Y-K-A-Y, @gmail.com. So being accessible to all of you is very, very important, and I ask that you connect with me and ask for your vote this November. Thank you.
So I want to once again thank everybody for coming out. It's been a great turnout. Thank you for your questions. Your questions were fantastic. They were insightful. They really allowed both of us to get our thoughts out and to get messages out to you. So I very much appreciate that. I want to be clear. I'm not a professional politician. I didn't come to this because I want to have political power and I want to go on to be the governor or something like that. I came out of this because I was frustrated. I was frustrated and angry about what I'm seeing in my community, and I decided I wanted to make a change, as somebody needs to make a change. I don't want to just be the person who goes in and goes to the council and starts working on those issues. I want to inspire other people to go out there and make a difference in the community. I chose this way to do it. I chose to go to the city council and try to make a direct impact in our government. And as our citizen there who made the questions about what I did in my community, there are other things you can do. You don't have to take that step all the way up to being in the city council. That's just the way I chose to go about it. So if you want change, if you want things to be different in the city of Burien, please, by all means, get out there, get active, and vote. Whether you vote for me or you vote for Lucy, please vote. Participate in your government. What happens here on the city council has more impact on your lives every day than the presidential race. Okay? It's critical. Get out and vote, and thank you very much for your time.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Just a quick note, the next B-TownBlog candidate forum is Tuesday, August 6th, when Austin Bell and Darla Green will face off. And then the following Tuesday, October 13th, Bob Edgar and Holly Giffen. So, quick shout out to Mark Newman for putting this together. And thank you all from the B-TownBlog.